Warrior of God, from this moment on, you will no longer stand outside your life, but step straight into it like a man in armor stepping into battle. Yes, you have sworn a vow not with words, but with a decision etched into silence. The ritual is not in the ceremony, but in the moment you refuse your old self. If you walk away from this vow, don't call yourself a man again. The boy runs on feelings. The man keeps his vow. The boy seeks ease. The man endures training. Between darkness and pressure, you either break or you are forged. And from here, the vow no longer defines you, but determines who you are in the trials ahead. Vow to me now to step into the moment that severs the old self. A knight's oath is more than a ceremony. It is a boundary. An invisible yet decisive cut where the old person stops and the new person begins. There are no applause, no stage lights, only silence and an irrevocable decision. Before that moment, a boy lives by instinct. He reacts based on emotion, seeks ease, and avoids pressure. He changes with circumstances like sand under the wind. But after the vow, everything reverses. The man no longer asks what he wants, but what he is committed to. He no longer chases feelings, but stands firm in discipline. A boy follows his hunger. A man follows his vow. The boy chases what he feels. The man follows what he has chosen. In the Bible, many such moments occurred. When Abraham stepped onto Mount Moriah, he was no longer a man living by the feelings of a father. He became a man who kept his promise to God. Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering. Genesis. It wasn't because he didn't love his son, but because he placed the covenant above emotion. That is the true nature of a vow. It does not erase feelings, but places them in their rightful position. It doesn't make a person cold, but makes them resolute. When the Knights Templar took their oath, they didn't just make a promise. They accepted a new life, obedience, discipline, sacrifice. No longer I like, but I will. No longer I want, but I have chosen. And this change creates the turning point. But if we look at modern men, we see a different picture. Many do not lack opportunities, but lack discipline. They do not lack knowledge, but lack consistency. They start many things, but rarely finish. They talk about goals, but live by emotion. As the Bible warns, like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. Proverbs. When a man cannot control himself, he becomes easily broken by circumstances. There are men today who are pulled away by every small feeling. A little fatigue makes them quit. A little difficulty makes them retreat. They want the result, but avoid the process. They want strength, but reject discipline. And so they are stuck between two states, no longer a boy, but not yet a man. The Bible says, "Be alert and of sober mind." 1 Peter. This is not just moral advice, but a principle of life. The one who is not alert will be swept away by the current. The one who lacks sobriety will be defeated by himself. The vow is the cutting point from that state. In Romans, it is written, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Maturity does not come from age, but from transformation. Not an external transformation, but a change in how a man makes decisions. The boy asks, "Is this easy?" The man asks, "Is this right?" The boy asks, "Do I want this?" The man asks, "Have I committed to this?" And it is precisely here that the difference is made. In Ephesians, the image of putting on the full armor of God is not just a symbol of war, but a symbol of discipline and readiness. The belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith, all require preparation. An undisciplined person cannot put those on. A person who lives by emotion cannot stand firm in battle. A knight does not become a knight when he wields his sword. He becomes a knight when he no longer returns to his old self. And this does not belong only to the Middle Ages. It happens in modern life, in a quieter but no less decisive way. There is no hall, no white cloak, but there are still moments when a man must decide to continue living by instinct or to start living by commitment. It might be the moment you choose to stay when everything becomes difficult. It might be the moment you keep your word when no one is watching. It might be the moment you discipline yourself when motivation is gone. The Bible in Luke reminds us, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me." This is not an easy invitation. This is a call to step across the boundary, from the old person to the new person. The boy wants to maintain comfort. The man accepts loss in order to become more steadfast. The vow is not a one-time declaration. It is a decision repeated daily. Every time you choose discipline over procrastination, every time you keep your word instead of finding excuses, every time you stand firm instead of giving up, you are reaffirming your vow. And over time, that vow is no longer something you have to remember. It becomes who you are. Maturity does not begin when you feel ready. It begins when you commit and continues even when you no longer want to. When you bind yourself to a standard higher than feeling. When you step across the boundary and never look back. Warrior of God, it is time for discipline to replace emotion. Discipline does not come to erase emotions, but to put them in their proper place. Emotions are real, but they are not always right. They come quickly, change quickly, and often leave before the result can materialize. A boy who lives by emotion will advance when excited and stop when tired. But a man does not build his life on things that change like that. A boy follows feelings. A man follows vow. The boy acts when he has motivation. The man acts because he is committed. Discipline is not coldness. It is the ability to control yourself when emotions no longer support you. It is the ability to continue when you don't want to continue. It is the ability to keep your word when no one is checking. In the Bible, Paul writes, "I discipline my body and make it my slave," 1 Corinthians. This is not punishment, but training. He understood that if he did not control himself, he would be controlled by himself. This is where many modern men fail, not because they are weaker, but because they depend too much on emotion. They start when they are motivated, but do not maintain it when the motivation disappears. They set goals, but do not keep the necessary discipline to achieve them. The Bible warns, "A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways." James. A person who changes based on emotion will not have a stable foundation. Determined today, quitting tomorrow. Strong today, hesitant tomorrow. And ultimately, nothing is accomplished. The boy says, "I will do it when I feel ready." The man says, "I do it even if I feel nothing." The boy needs motivation. The man creates discipline. The boy seeks inspiration. The man builds a system. Discipline is not a feeling. It is a structure. It is repeated actions even when enthusiasm is absent. And it is in that repetition that a man is shaped. In 2 Timothy it is written, "For God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but of power, of love, and of self-control." Self-control is not limitation, but strength. It allows a man to stand firm when everything around him fluctuates. A man without discipline will always be pulled toward what is easiest. After a long day, he chooses rest instead of continuing. Facing a small difficulty, he chooses to stop instead of overcoming it. And gradually, these small choices accumulate into an unfulfilled life. That is not a lack of ability. That is a lack of persistence. Discipline does not require you to be strong all the time. It only requires you not to abandon what you have chosen. It keeps you going when your emotions say, stop. It keeps you standing firm when your will becomes weak. In Hebrews it is written, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful." Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Discipline is not pleasant in the present, but it creates results in the future. Emotion seeks ease. Discipline builds strength. Emotion wants quick results. Discipline accepts the long process. Emotion seeks comfort. Discipline embraces pressure. This is the core difference. The man is not defined by what he feels in the moment. He is defined by what he still does when the feelings are gone, when the motivation is gone, when no one is looking. And it is in those moments that discipline is no longer a choice. It becomes his nature. Warrior of God, remember these things. The vow is not proven in the moment you speak it. It is proven in the moments you want to give up. A vow that has not been tested is merely words. Only by going through suffering, loneliness, and pressure does the vow reveal its true value. A boy can speak powerful words when everything is easy, but when faced with pressure, he will retreat. A man is not different in his words, but different in that he still stands firm when circumstances are against him. In the Bible, the desert is always a place of trial. The Israelites wandered in the desert for 40 years, not because they lacked a path, but because they lacked discipline and faith. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years to humble and test you. Deuteronomy. The desert does not make a person weak. It reveals who they are. Jesus also went into the desert for 40 days. No crowd, no support, only silence and temptation. He was tempted by the devil, Matthew, not to fail, but to prove obedience. In the darkness, the vow becomes clearer than ever. Fire is also an image of trial. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into the blazing furnace, not because they were weak, but because they refused to compromise. We will not serve your gods, Daniel. The fire did not destroy them, it confirmed them. In the fire, their vow became undeniable. The boy avoids the fire. The man walks through the fire. The boy seeks the easy path. The man keeps to the right path. The night is also a place of trial. No one sees, no one acknowledges. This is where many give up, because there is no external motivation. But it is in that solitude that the true self is revealed. The Bible says, "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy the devil prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." 1 Peter. The one who does not guard in the night will be defeated without realizing it. A moment of slackness can destroy what was built over many years. In battle, no one asks how you feel. No one cares if you are tired. The only thing that matters is whether you stand firm. This is also the image Paul uses. Fight the good fight of the faith. 1 Timothy. Faith is not just belief, but perseverance in battle. And modern life is no different. It has no swords and armor, but it has other pressures: work, responsibility, temptation, procrastination. This is the silent battlefield where there are no drums, but there are battles every day. Many men today fail not in the great battles, but in the small battles repeated every day. They quit when they don't see immediate results. They give up when no one is cheering them on. They lose discipline when there is no external pressure. The Bible says, "Whoever is faithful with very little will also be faithful with much." Luke. The trial does not only come in the big moments, but in the small choices. And these choices determine who you are. The boy waits for perfect conditions. The man acts under imperfect conditions. The boy quits when difficulty arrives. The man keeps his word when difficulty lasts. Ultimately, the vow does not need to be protected by words. It is proven by action, not in the light, but in the dark. Not when it is easy, but when everything is against you. It is not words, but the trials themselves that will expose who you are, a quitter or a keeper of the vow.